my old YouTube account, Night 10 Gale, I had 3 different types of quarantining information videos, mostly geared towards invertebrates. Instead of uploading all 3 to my new account, I decided I was going to make one big video covering all the basics and covering a bunch of different types of animals pretty much in general. And I decided to make this video tonight because tomorrow I am going to a reptile expo or a reptile show. So I have 3 different types of quarantine cages actually set up behind the camera that I'm going to show you at the end of the video as examples. Now, you should always quarantine your animals. So new arrivals, whether they're going to be housed individually by themselves or even if they're going into a community tank, especially important if they're going to be living in a community cage. No matter what type of animal it has, whether it's reptile, invertebrate, small animal, always quarantine. And the purpose of quarantining is to help you easily spot any health problems, any parasites, to allow you to easily make sure that your animals are finding their food and their water properly and acting the way that they should. Now, a quarantine cage that you choose, that you pick out, it should be somewhat smaller than the suggested minimum size for your type and age of animal. Everything that you put in your quarantine cage should be stuff that is easily disposable or easily cleaned. So for a substrate, no matter what type of animal it is, whether again it's small animal, invert, or reptile, you can just lay down paper towel or newspaper. You can make this either wet or dry depending whether you have a desert or a tropical environment that you need to keep. Everything else you put in it, again, disposable. So things like, toilet paper rolls make really good hides. You can take the paper towel rolls and cut them to the same width as your cage and just kind of shove them in there, and they will actually stay in place, held above ground as a climbing structure. You can just use regular cardboard boxes, whether it's from your cereal or whatever. Or in this case, I just used the little cardboard pet carrier that the animal came in from the pet store, cut off the flaps that hold it together and cut an access hole in it to make a hide. Cardboard is safe to use for all types of animals, reptiles, amphibians, invertebrates, and small animals. It's okay if your small animals chew on this. My hamsters would take the toilet paper rolls, chew them up, and mix them in their hide and make like a little nest out of them. So they seem to have fun playing with them. The ferret has fun playing with them. Other easily disposable things, containers that food came in, such as from the deli, the plastic containers, or this one was like a ready to heat like soup bowl. So any kind of plastic container that maybe food came in, as long as there's nothing, like chemically, besides just food containers that are plastic. Again, clean them out really good, cut a hole in them, turn them upside down. You got a whole a hide box. Again, for any type of animal, you can cut a hole in the lid, make a moist hide. So, and if you got really small ones, you can make dishes out of them. Bottle caps make really good dishes for really small animals like invertebrates and hatchlings. Other really awesome things, I love plastic canvas as climbing structures. This is really good for aquatic, terrestrial, and aquatic and non-aquatic invertebrates. Great climbing structure, really good for hermit crabs, and it's really cheap. You can get it in any craft section for under $1 a sheet. Can also, we'll talk about this later. Another thing that I love is foam. Now, foam you cannot use for small animals. However, it is really good for your high humidity cages because, a high humidity cage, you can't use cardboard because it's just going to turn to mush, fall apart. So I like foam. This is a foam swimming pool noodle I picked up from the dollar store. And again, just cut it to the same width as your cage, shove it in there, and it'll stay above ground on its own. For things like, it's best for things that can actually climb glass and smooth surfaces very well, like geckos, mantids, tarantulas. But for things that have claws and don't climb very well, like bearded dragons and leopard geckos, keep them low to the ground because they should be able to sink their claws in this to climb up. Just don't take them very far off the ground at all, so that if they fall, they're not going to hurt themselves. Cutting off the straight ends of plastic clothing hangers, great climbing structure, and again, really good in like humid environments. You can use things that you might have around the house that are smooth. You can use your actual like ceramic or stoneware crock pot dishes because they're smooth. You can use ceramic. Just make sure the bottom is also coated in the clear sealant. It shouldn't be rough or dry feeling. You can use glass, cleans up very easily. And of course plastic is smooth, it cleans up very easily. Everything in your quarantine cage, try to keep it pale in color. I say that because a pale, having most of your things, you know, lightly colored, is going to help you see parasites that are climbing around in the cage. Your water bowl especially, that's where you're going to find a lot of parasites or even pests like ants that have maybe gotten into your cage. They're going to drown in the water bowl. So having that at least pale is very important. But the paler substrate, it's also going to help you spot your animals' poop better so that you can make sure it's the right color, it's, you know, that they don't have diarrhea, you can make sure there's nothing crawling around in it, aka a parasite. Now for other uses for a quarantine cage, very great for animals that you're having trouble to getting them to feed. So it'd be very good for like first time feeders like your babies. So like hatchling lizards, hatchling snakes. Keeping them in a small, very basic cage, you throw a bunch of crickets in there, it puts your lizard, baby lizard, in closer relation to its food. Versus if you're putting crickets into a fully set up terrarium, there's all, you know, your crickets, they can dig in your wood or your coconut fiber substrate, they can hide under your decor or in your plants, and it's going to make it very hard for an inexperienced baby to find, and they may not eat and could die. So quarantining is great. Quarantine setups are great for that. They're really good for injured pets because the simple setup, it's so much easier to clean, which is going to reduce bacterial buildup that could cause your pet's wound to get infected. And it's also going to help prevent other irritation of the wound because there's things that you might have in your cage that could rub open your pet's wound as it's trying to heal. So it's really great for that. Animals that give live birth, you can stick your females in there until they give birth, and then if they don't give care or limited care to their young, remove them. Remove the female instead of chasing around, you know, tons of babies around a fully decorated and planted cage trying to catch them all. And then your babies are all in one spot and easy to take care of, and the basic quarantine setup will be a lot easier to clean if you got a lot of babies producing a lot of poop. A few other basics here as far as caging. If you have an animal that's a ground dweller, it doesn't spend a lot of time like in trees and stuff. It spends most of the time on the ground, or it's a burrower. You want a cage that's more wide and more long than it is tall. This is just a basic food storage container you can get really at any place. Tight fitting lid. If you need something a little bigger, you have plastic shoe boxes. And again, punch some holes in them. And a note about punching holes, always punch your holes from the inside of the terrarium towards the outside. That way the sharp edges that cutting the holes is going to create the sharp edges will be on the outside towards you. It won't be on the inside of the cage where it can injure your pet. If you don't want to punch holes, you can cut a big hole in the top of your lid or along the sides, and then cut a piece of plastic canvas slightly bigger than that hole that you just cut, place it over the hole, and use a hot glue gun to glue the plastic canvas in place around the entire edge. So it's basically like having plastic screen in your lid. It's awesome. I love it. I do it all the time. So something like this that's more, it's not as tall, it's more flat and long, be really good for like your ground dwelling tarantulas, leopard geckos, that sort of thing. Just make sure you get the right, slightly smaller size cage for your particular animal. These are just some suggestions. These I use for, like, you know, be good for like baby tarantulas, and I use these for millipedes, really, that's what I use them for. This here can house a pretty decent size colony of millipedes that are up to 4 inches. That's actually what this was originally for. But this would be good for, you know, like an adult ground-dwelling tarantula even. I'd say even like a hatchling. We suggest stuff like this for like hatchling quarentining and leopard geckos as well. Something almost that size. If you have an animal that doesn't spend a lot of time on the ground at all, it's arboreal, it spends most of the time climbing and in the trees, then you want obviously something that's more tall than it is wide or long. This is just a basic cylindrical deli container that you would get if you go to a deli and get potato salad or something. Some delis though now are using the ones that are square instead of tall and cylindrical like this. Obviously this size, the kind of deli containers, are only going to be good for arboreal invertebrates. And most invertebrate breeders actually sell these with a screening already in their lid or cotton. So if you're buying like your mantis or your arboreal tarantula or whatever it is you're buying, see if the breeder actually has some of these available for you to purchase, or go down to your deli. You can also get plastic cookie jars or cereal containers from most department stores fairly cheap, and you could use that. So that's fine. For aquatic animals, they're really tricky, very different. You're going to use no substrate at all for an aquatic animal, because a bare bottom tank is going to be very easy to clean. Just use a turkey baster to vacuum up all the poop that is on the bottom, settles on the bottom of the aquarium. And when you do this, you'd actually also be sucking up any eggs or larvae from parasites that may have settled there, so that you may actually prevent an infestation of something that a newly arriving aquatic animal has by removing those eggs with your daily cleanings. It also, having the bare bottom, so much easier for you to spot if there is something crawling on the bottom of your cage that should not be there. A lot of aquatic animals are going to need an air pump. Do not use an air stone or an air bar. They're going to be very hard to make safe for use again if that aquatic animal is indeed infected with a parasite or sick. So just use the regular air tubing hooked up to your air pump, and then if your animal is infected with something, you can just cut off a decent sized length from the bottom tip of that airline tubing instead of having to throw it all out and completely replace it. So a lot cheaper and a lot less hassle for you to do it that way. I think I had mentioned that plastic canvas makes a great climbing structure for aquatic invertebrates like crabs and shrimp, so you can just put that in there. But sorry everyone, whoever came to say hi, he always does this. But another thing that's really good, that's cheap for an aquarium use, because you don't have many options, would be these clay or terracotta flower pots. You can get them really cheap in most garden departments. And for my particular cage, this one's big enough that it doesn't really roll around. But in most cases, you're actually going to want to break your clay pot into pieces. Use either a nail file, a metal nail file, a wood file, or sandpaper to smooth out any sharp edges that could be on the broken pieces, and then just set the broken pieces in on the bottom. Since it's heavy, it stays down, which you need since you don't have gravel. These here, this is like, it's a breeder plant. You can get them in packs of 12, fairly cheap, and they just float on the surface. This is a really good top cover plant if you're using your quarantine-based setup to raise baby fish or in it, or it's really good for small invertebrates such as snails, shrimps, crayfish, well, maybe not crayfish, but my crayfish. So that's pretty much it with that. If any of your, oh, I did forget one, small animals, use a wire cage or an aquarium type cage. Again, just lay down newspaper or paper towel flat as your substrate, and then, like I said, you can use cardboard for your hides or plastic for hides and water dishes, or the actual like stoneware, ceramic type dishes and hides that they actually sell at the pet store. I'd suggest sticking with something cheap that you don't mind just throwing out just in case. Now, in the event that a new animal you have is actually sick or has parasites, you want to throw out everything that you can that you don't mind throwing out. And for reptiles, amphibians, or invertebrates, anything that's smooth surface, such as your plastic, glass, or ceramic that you may want to save, such as a plastic plant, you can just soak that in a solution of Clorox bleach and water. Do not use a lot of bleach. Make it a very, very weak mixture or a very weak solution of bleach to water. But you're going to let it soak for, I'd say, like, I don't know, 10 minutes. More is always better. And then you're going to thoroughly rinse everything. Like, over-rinse it like you're trying to drown it. And when you put your nose against this item, you should not be able to smell any, have any lingering smell of bleach on that item, and then it is safe to use again. For aquariums, you pretty much just have to throw everything out. But most aquatic parasites and diseases cannot survive being completely dried out for more than 3 weeks. So you can just clean it out with the hottest water you have, and then set it aside, let it completely dry out, and make sure it stays completely dried out, and leave it set, dried out, unused for over a month. And that should kill most things, but it's really your only other option since fish are so touchy, you can't use chemicals. For small animals, again, what you can, just throw it out and replace it. Clean everything very thoroughly with hot water. For small animals and reptiles, it is safe to use very small amounts of very gentle dish soap, such as Dawn, which is what is commonly used to clean up, clean oil off of animals, wild animals, in the case of an oil spill. So you can clean out your small animals and your reptiles' cages using small amounts of dish soap, or again, a weak solution of bleach with water. I think I hit everything, I think. I am going to be touching up on most of these things. A few other points though. If your animal is sick, aside from the cleaning that I just mentioned, and regular cleaning at that, I mean, you want to clean and replace everything regularly if your animal is sick or has a parasite. But you also want to go online, know what it is, identify it, and get whatever the proper treatment is. For mites on reptiles and amphibians, they have like sprays and baths out there that will kill the mites and everything on your pet reptile or amphibian without harming them. They have the same thing, I think they have something like that for small animals. And then there's like oral medications and topical medications that you can get to for any type of animal for a wide variety of illnesses or parasites that you may encounter. So you want to provide proper treatment and do a lot of cleaning, thoroughly cleaning and replacing of your substrate in case and if an animal is sick or mite-free. Keep your quarantine cages, your quarantine animals as far away from your established animals that you know are healthy, because in the event that one of your new animals does become sick or you notice parasites on them, you do not want those parasites or that illness to spread into all, to all of your healthy animals, because not only is that more work for you, but it also puts all of your pets in danger of potentially dying, or in the case of many lizards, dropping their tail. So that's very important. You should also keep each individual quarantine tank, you should keep some separation between them. Let me check my little list here. I had a little cheat sheet. Make sure I didn't miss anything, because I'm so good with that. Alright, well, let me hit the main points. So I'm going to show you these quarantine cages that I have behind me and give you a little explanation. You'll see a lot of the things that I did talk about, okay? So let me take you over there. Cover the camera here because nobody wants to see that. But alright, here's this one. This is just a plastic 5.5 gallon critter keeper. And it is set up, I'm hoping to pick up a hatchling leopard gecko at the reptile show tomorrow. And these things are pretty tiny. I mean, this is half the size of what is suggested for a full-grown adult leopard gecko, so it should be adequate. My heat lamp is up here. I'm splitting it between two tanks. But my hide, which here it's just an oatmeal box, I cut it in half and made it a little shorter and obviously opened the front. And as you can see, it spans almost the entire back length of my cage. So it actually crosses over the full gradient. So this one hide is acting as two, one for the hot side and one for the cool side, because you can go to this side for hot or that side for cool. My dish is just a regular stoneware crock dish from the pet store. This is just like a ceramic climbing log. He should be able to wrap its fingers in there to climb up, so I can get closer to the heat lamp if it needs to be a little warmer, or come down to the ground where it'll be a little cooler. And then we have a rock here to gather create an extra hot spot on the ground for some belly heat if he would like that. Over here, very simple. This would be for some beetles, like a ground-dwelling beetle. And I have two small pieces of paper there on the bottom. And then I have these crumpled up pieces in here to allow them to hide underneath and burrow. The water dish is just a soda cap. And then this here is just half a small piece cut off of a toilet paper roll that's cut in half for a hide. And then down here, very simple, I have 2 layers of paper towel, flat paper towel on the bottom, and then I have all these crumpled up. It's just a full piece of paper towel that I crumpled up, and I shoved this in here because I have this set up hoping to get this burrowing ground-dwelling species of frog. And crumpling up paper like this and shoving a whole bunch of it into your terrarium gives your animals something to dig underneath and burrow underneath. They'll hide under that, and it'll help with that natural instinct. This here is just a dish from one of those like instant heat up meals for the water dish, and I do have a few polished like aquarium rocks in there to weigh it down so it doesn't tip over. This plastic plant will provide some cover. It'll help provide access in and out of the bowl in case I get a baby rather than an adult, though I did prepare this tank for an adult rather than a baby. But if I get a baby, this plant will give it something to grab onto when it's in the bowl and help get it in and out of the dish. And they can also go, and it overlaps the dish a little bit, the water bowl, so they can hide under there while they're soaking in the water bowl. This is the plastic coat hanger piece I was telling you about for climbing on. And then this here is just foam egg crate, which is very good for tropical quarantine setups. Place it in a corner like this. It creates a 3-sided shelter. Frog can go up underneath there and hide in the back. And then the face of the egg crate also creates a climbing space. So it's dual purpose. It's climbing area and a hide. I use this for my crested gecko too, something like this. It's great. You can also use cardboard egg crate if you're using if you got a desert setup rather than tropical. But if you need tropical, you need to stick with plastic. No cardboard at all. And then lastly, up here, this is my prettiest one. So as you can see, you can make ones that are a little bit more pretty. So we got very basic, basic but a little bit prettier to look at, and then a lot more prettier. This one up here is for a corn snake. It's actually very big for a yearling, which is what I'm getting. But I can always divide this off and make it smaller so he doesn't have full access. But here is the tubing that I was telling you about, the foam pool noodle just hanging up there by itself. If you cut it too small, you can add 2 layers of hot glue to the ends, either end, to add a little bit more length to help hold it in there more sturdy. The gems I put on it was for color, but it's also to help provide grip so that the snake can actually get up here. This is the egg crate hide. Cut a little hole, go hide there. And I put it in the middle so it's pretty much in the middle of the gradient. Go to one side for cooler, one side for a little warmer. Again, crock dish. This here is a plastic crate, hoping he can weave his way up through there and climb like a big giant climbing structure for fun. You can go in there, go in the middle and hide. I got a rock in there to collect the heat. There's the heat lamp. And then the plant, so you can actually use the top of this crate as a basking platform to get closer to the heat lamp, or again, closer to the floor for cooler. It's got the plant to hide under, whether it's on the floor in behind the crate or on top of the crate. And you should also be able to climb on top of the plant to get really close to the heat lamp. So that's what I have. If you got any questions, just shoot me a comment.